Hello, everyone. Welcome to Inside the Americas. Coming up, as Venezuela is hit with new mass protests against President Nicolas Maduro, we'll meet Venezuelans who support the country's self-proclaimed interim president, Juan Guaido. Then, close to 85 people were killed in the burst dam in Brazil this week, with over 200 still missing. Experts now say bigger disasters could be on the way. And record-breaking cold in the Midwestern United States brings temperatures colder than the Arctic Circle. I'm Jeannie Godula. Venezuela was hit by more mass protests this week against the government of the president, Nicolas Maduro. He is in a standoff with National Assembly President Juan Guaido, who declared himself president and is now calling for new elections. Guaido has been hit with a travel ban and a bank freeze from the Supreme Court, but that hasn't kept his followers from doing all they can to bring down Maduro. Owen Barnell reports.
Unafraid, determined, these Venezuelans march towards a military barracks, hoping to meet soldiers loyal to Nicolas Maduro.
No, I'm not scared. At this moment, I'm not scared. I'm on the side of the truth.
Among them are mothers, locals, and political activists.
Come on, let's go!
In their hands, leaflets promising amnesty for soldiers willing to join their movement.
Come down, brother. Come and read this. We are offering you amnesty with open arms.
Most of the soldiers within pay no attention. One or two come to the door.
Hello, my friend. This shows the amnesty. You see, it's not a coup d'etat. We are respecting the law.
The offer is refused, the leaflets torn to shreds.
How rude. This shows a lack of respect.
Do you think they are scared?
Yes, because Maduro's days are numbered.
The man these people are fighting for is Juan Guaido, until recently a relative unknown in Venezuela. Born into a modest family, Guaido is no stranger to adversity. He and his relatives survived a landslide in his hometown in 1999, which left thousands dead. Now at 35 years old and in the spotlight, Guaido is determined to defy Maduro without fear.
Are you causing a civil war in Venezuela?
Excuse me? No, the only thing we want is peace and prosperity for Venezuela.
Those handing out amnesty leaflets in Caracas' streets have pinned their hopes on Guaido. These people all support him: a hairdresser, childminder, restaurant owner, and engineer.
My regular wage doesn't really exceed $25, $26 a month.
The middle class doesn't exist anymore. It's impossible to save anything.
These people lived in fear of Maduro. Now they say no longer.
I have nothing to lose. I have already lost everything. We have lost our savings, our security, our families, and our health.
The coming days will test their resolve. Guaido has urged all Venezuelans to continue to peacefully protest in the days ahead. Maduro shows no sign of stepping aside.
And you can catch that in-depth interview with Venezuela's self-proclaimed interim president, Juan Guaido, in its entirety on our website, france24.com. Our picture of the week is this one. Aerial shots of the massive mudslide that slammed through Brazil this week. At least 84 people have been confirmed dead and over 200 still missing from the collapse of the mining waste dam in the southeastern part of the country. The mine was operated by the world's biggest iron ore producer, Vale, a company that was also implicated in another burst dam 4 years ago in the same region that wrought environmental havoc. Experts now say bigger disasters could be on the horizon. Olivia Salazar-Winspear reports.
This wasn't an accident, according to the slogans written by protesters at the Vale headquarters in Rio de Janeiro. They say the disaster's linked to mismanagement and that privatization is to blame.
Vale's privatization was criminal. We need to give back Vale to the people because privatization gave profits to a few and cost thousands of lives.
The dam, which burst at the iron ore mine near Brumadinho, had been built in 1976 and was in the process of being decommissioned. Vale said it passed a safety inspection 4 months ago. This fatal mudslide is just the latest in a handful of deadly accidents in the sector in recent years. Experts say conditions at many functioning dams in Minas Gerais state cannot be verified and that deteriorating standards could be related to cost-cutting measures.
What we've seen at the moment, as commodity prices are falling, is there's a tendency for companies to cut security on maintenance budgets. We'll have to look closely at what's in the inquiry about what happened with the Fundão Dam, as to whether there's a possibility that Vale has diminished its control and monitoring of these dams since then.
Indeed, when the Fundão Dam burst near the town of Mariana in 2015, releasing waves of toxic red mud, it was described as the worst environmental disaster Brazil had ever seen. Vale had joint ownership of that mining site along with San Marco. A disaster that, beyond the immediate casualties, had serious consequences for the local environment, since the mud contained carcinogenic heavy metals.
Those heavy metals will stay in the environment, attack humans, animals and plants, so you have to remove the mud. But the fluid metal also flows downwards to underground water sources, so groundwater is polluted too.
At the time, experts called on lawmakers to tighten security regulations on dams. Yet many are pessimistic about the prospect of improving safety at industrial sites, given the new administration.
It's a government that doesn't give any signs of stricter controls in terms of environmental regulations, of more control over corporate behaviour. This government considers that companies automatically function in a responsible way, when in fact it's exactly the opposite, as we've just observed.
The state of Minas Gerais has more than 400 dams. Vale has pledged to close down 10 of the mining waste dams, similar to the one that collapsed in Brumadinho.
Canadian officials are weighing a U.S. request to extradite Huawei's CFO, Meng Wanzhou. Meng is the daughter of the telecom's founder, and she was arrested in December at the request of the U.S. This week, she was charged with bank and wire fraud to trade with Iran in violation of U.S. sanctions. Catherine Viette explains.
In court for a bail adjustment hearing, Meng Wanzhou is fighting extradition to the United States. Arrested December 1st in Canada at the request of Washington, the CFO of Huawei has been charged with bank and wire fraud as part of efforts to evade U.S. sanctions against Iran. The telecommunications giant is also facing a raft of other charges, 23 counts in all, including allegations the company stole robotic technology from rival T-Mobile USA.
Both sets of charges expose Huawei's brazen and persistent actions to exploit American companies and financial institutions and to threaten the free and fair global marketplace.
The Chinese government has denounced what it says is an unreasonable crackdown and demanded Meng's immediate release.
We are very disappointed by the U.S. decision to ignore China's demand and proceed with the extradition request, and we're firmly opposed to it. We again urge the U.S. to immediately withdraw the arrest warrant on Meng and the extradition. In the meantime, we urge Canada to take China's solemn position seriously and immediately release Meng and protect her legitimate and legal rights.
The charges add pressure to a relationship already strained by ongoing trade disputes between Washington and Beijing. Canada now has a month to decide whether to honor the United States' extradition request.
This week in Chicago, an actor from the hit show Empire was attacked in what police are investigating as a hate crime. Jussie Smollett was assaulted by two people reportedly yelling racial and homophobic slurs. The attackers poured an unknown chemical substance on Smollett and put a rope around his neck before fleeing the scene. The actor told police his attackers also made references to Donald Trump's slogan, "Make America Great Again." Hollywood stars are showing their support, including Oscar winner Viola Davis and supermodel Naomi Campbell. Well, that comes as tens of millions in the U.S. this week were hit with the coldest air in a generation. The polar vortex moved with record temperatures in some places that were colder than the Arctic Circle. Many companies told their workers to stay home, many schools closed, and hundreds of flights were canceled. Nick Rushworth reports.
Chicago police officers rescue a man from an icy Lake Michigan. He jumped in to save his dog, who had fallen in while the two were out for a walk. Police hoisted the man to safety. The dog, too, was able to get out of the water. For others, such as this parking enforcement officer in Milwaukee, work continues pretty much as normal, though in extreme conditions.
You're going along, you're in a warm, comfortable Jeep, you get out and it's just a brutal change.
Illinois, Michigan and Wisconsin have declared statewide emergencies with snowplows in action and warming shelters set up. Amid warnings, people could get frostbite in a matter of minutes. In Chicago, the mayor announced plans to make sure the homeless are not left out in life-threatening cold.
CTA and Family Services sent the bus to pick up homeless people to make sure that if they didn't want to go to a warming center that are open, that there'd be a bus to make sure that they could be off the streets in a warming bus and a CTA bus.
2,000 flights have been cancelled, hundreds of schools closed, all due to a stream of cold air known as the polar vortex that spins around the stratosphere over the North Pole.
Now, if you're a football fan, American football that is, you're probably gearing up for Super Bowl 53. The New England Patriots will face the Los Angeles Rams in Atlanta Sunday. And while Super Bowl week is always a big rah-rah moment for the NFL, this year the National Football League is rooting for something new. Quentin Perron and Napoleon Ginnies, two professional dancers, are now cheerleaders for the Los Angeles Rams. And believe it or not, they are the first men ever to cheer during the Super Bowl. Be sure to check it out this Super Bowl Sunday. We'll leave you with that. Thanks so much for watching this Inside the Americas. See you again next week for all the news from north to south.
From North to South Africa, from Bamako to Nairobi, from Accra to Mogadishu. Bringing you all the political, economic, cultural and social news from Africa for a better insight into an ever-changing continent.
Across Africa, presented by Georgia Calvin-Smith on France 24 and France24.com.